Welcome back. It is the match of the week. It's going to be Astralis versus Vanir. We're talking about a team that we were so hyped about at the beginning of the split. Well, Goldberg was here, so obviously Danish. But out of a sudden, they're just falling through the hole. On the other side, Vanir is a team that no one was looking into, and they're just squeezing themselves into the top, looking at the throne.
And sometimes, as analysts, as broadcasters, we have to stand up and we kind of have to take a bit of an L, because we set ourselves like, is the top 4 teams, it's going to be clean cut. Week 1, we're like, sweet, Elite 4, we can run with that narrative. And particularly a team like Vanir. I guess Bifrost were one of those teams that was in the initial group, so maybe less on there, but M&M, Dusty in the game that they won as well. We've got teams which are constantly making us question our judgments. And now we've got another game like this, which maybe gives us a chance to redeem that narrative. Astralis kind of returning to the top pack, getting to that point where we're viewing them as a top contender again, but they have to prove themselves now. That's 3. They've lost more than they've won. They've got on a loss streak of 3. That's, you know, equaling some of, well, I mean, it's only beaten by Singularity's loss streak at this point. They need to recover, because each of these games now is going to be at the point where actually starting to skirt that playoffs bracket.
Yeah, I was saying like we're early into the split, but this is week 3, day 2 as well. We're looking into 9 weeks, I believe so. We were talking about that as well. So it's not that early. Every single victory counts, even from the beginning, week 1. So
when it's this close, I reckon. You can probably quote me on this. I reckon we'll have 1 game in it for the playoffs classification. 1 game will determine like the actual which teams are in and which are out. And if you lose a game like this as Astralis, you're going to look back to this week and say, we didn't stabilize early enough. What happened there?
Man, I like the idea of the Elite 4. Like, I'm one of those guys that I don't mind overselling the top of the standings, due to the fact that Elite 4 to me doesn't mean a lot, due to the fact that when we were kids, we saw Elite 4, a 10-year-old kid can beat the Elite 4 in 1 day, so I don't know. There we go, Astralis Talent versus Vanir. It's time to get the champion select going in.
My dude, I faced the Elite 4 with 1 thing, not using any of its moves up more than half of its PP. So
Elite 4 doesn't mean a lot, does it?
Doesn't really mean that much.
Caitlyn, Twisted Fate, so the usual bans on this game of the week. Akali, yeah, you don't want to face Nile on Akali.
So, what I want to see out of Astralis from this draft, just like philosophically, is something which allows them to really simplify their mid game, really simplify their go buttons. Maybe they could go towards something like a Hecarim or something a bit more, this is always going to engage, very clear about how you want to play it. We've got some of the more passive champions out the way, but drowning something like a Jarvan, that would have been one of the picks which I would love to have seen out of Taxa. I think Vanir characterized Astralis pretty well at this point, and they're removing some of the easier proactive playmaking tools that they could be using.
Carlson is one of those guys that is capable of pulling the Renekton almost to the top of his capability, so maybe we can see that on the top side as well. That is really hard to deal as well if you're Nile, which is one of the carries of the team as well, I reckon, so you need to pay attention to that, but it's going to be the Xin Zhao straight up for Taxer. We got the jungler.
So now you have something away from Noodle, which he's played really, really well. Noodle has been a very, very exemplary Xin Zhao. There have been a couple of these fights where, in their wins, where he's been diving right into the back line, separating the front and the back with a crescent guard and taking 0 damage and winning his team the fight. So taking that away from a player like Noodle, I think that's very important. It removes some of the early game teeth that Vanir have shown, but they do have, if they lock in this Jinx, something to play towards the late game. They have the Jinx, they're going to have the Thresh alongside it if they want. That removes some of the other priority bot lanes like the Aphelios Thresh, which means that you're really looking at something like only like the Leona / everything that goes with her lanes, or Ezreal Karma to really contest in bot lane priority.
That is also an idea. Maybe you want to bring the Leona, you want to bring the Ziggs as well to get that AP on the bot side. We were talking in an interview, which is really powerful, by the way, allowing your mid laner to go for something more AD-ish if you want to, and Crassus want to pull it off if he wants. But it's going to be the face-off between 2 AD carries, so Aphelios is going to be picked alongside with the Lulu. So I believe both bot lanes are really solid so far.
So this does become a bit more of a skill matchup in the bot lane, because as we saw, some Lulu lanes, you get hit by a hook, you die.
Yeah.
This is one of those names where if you put different name tags on there, you'd be saying, oh, this is an awful decision. Now, Chrisberg and Wendell maybe haven't been so confident in their TV2 this split, but this is now a game for them to say, all right, in a skill matchup, if we win this, maybe you're going to start viewing us a little bit more positively.
There we go. The jungler is going to be logged in instantly. A Hecarim makes a lot of sense. You were talking about that. I was thinking maybe we could see the Trundle as well. Zorok brought in a deep analysis of what the Trundle can do, which is win. Versus Inzao. It's Zorok, by the way. So yeah. And with that in mind, okay, now we should look into mid lane bans. I believe so, unless they have to focus on Carlson, the rookie.
which is why the Renekton's gone.
There you go. I wasn't looking. I was predicting.
Sure. So Carlson has been the one real consistent performer that's been making their impact really felt in the team fights where Astralis as a team have suffered. Look back to that Bifrost game, Carlson in the backline, Carlson getting onto the carries, absorbing exhausts, absorbing polymorphs, and all of this defensive capability, and this the rest of the team that couldn't really capitalize on what he brought to them. Removing something like the early game powerhouse, the Renekton, where you can take control of the side of the map, that's very important for Vanir to do.
I do believe that, they don't take away the Gwen. They take away the LeBlanc, yes, but Gwen is available for Carlson if he wants to pick it up.
And what that means is that that's another carry now for Lulu to put all of the buffs onto. You run really fast, you auto-attack really, really fast, and you win games.
And you can go to the back line because Gwen is immune.
Is immune, yeah.
So let's see if it's actually Vanir taking it in. Kivo has to pick something now for the team. Does he pick the top lane and leave like the last pick for the mid lane? Is that something that he wants to do?
I mean, yes, in theory, but then actually you go back to something that the Trouble's been saying, actually, Sahir has not really had the deepest champion pool. It's like, oh, maybe you could play an Orianna here or a Syndra. No, it's Ryze. Anyway, they are going to take away that Gwen, so they're listening to us for now. So those comms are on point. Good job. They're listening to our pick ban analysis. But yes, you are looking now really for Sahir to reach a little bit deeper beyond that comfort zone they've set up for themselves in the split so far.
So now we were talking about Gragas and the Gwen, and obviously she's going to win all the time, but at least you can disengage. But I don't believe that is a pick for Carlson. Carlson needs something more solid. Carlson needs to be one of the carries of this game for Astralis if they want to pop it off. We get the Vex on the mid lane, which is really cool to go into the backside. Thresh is not allowed to protect the Jinx if you're playing versus a Vex, but now they need some sort of AD on the top side. Jace?
That helps. That's good. Yeah. That's fine, because actually I'm trying to remember that, well, because the remind me of the Gwen game we had earlier, which was really fun in the late game, the Bifrost game, yeah,
okay,
that one. I was wondering actually, instead of the GP into that matchup in that game, actually maybe we could have had a Camille. Camille's been nerfed, but it's still one of the few laners which can kind of hold Gwen a little bit to account, dive into the backline, it's a dive buddy for the Vex, it's a dive buddy for the Jin Zhao. On the other side though, you know who's really good at anti-dive? Yes, you got champions like Orianna that can do the shockwave. If you do like your QR combo, get 4 or 5 balls onto the ground, that Scatter the Weak is going to absolutely nullify engages. Plus, you got a little bit of early lane pressure to hold the Vex down a bit.
And you talked about this, like, Sahira doesn't have a big champion pool, but he plays the control champions. He knows how to play the control champions. So even if it's the last rotation to get to the Syndra, you got what you want. So you can protect the Jinx. You can try to peel away from that Camille, because Camille is Camille. And you know what she can do. The Shogath Q, she's really strong. And I mean, when you hook into the wall and you go to the face of Gwen, Gwen is not immune because she's on your face, so you can apply that stun.
Lots of little ways to get under their skin and just make sure they're not quite as comfortable. Maybe they have to blow a W to just get their resistances and the damage reduction in there, and remove Gwen's ability to just seamlessly flow through the team fight.
This is Astralis. This is Vanir. This is a time for one of these teams to shine and pull through to the top of the standings. I don't know what's going to happen. I know this game is going to be amazing. I hope you guys are excited. And now to kick it off, to the casters. How are you doing, Initialize?
Well, for one final time, it is indeed myself. I am, in fact, Initialized. This is still Trouble, and we've got a very interesting matchup here, narratively. We'll do this briefly, because we've had this conversation a bit, myself and Trouble, about how we wanted to sort of frame this game. Expectations versus reality was what we got, because it's kind of been an inversion of both of those things for these two different teams.
I feel like it has to do a lot with the history of the players of Astralis. Because if we take Astralis, they're a brand new organization, an academy organization coming into the NLC for the very first time, replacing an already successful organization that was Fnatic Rising, right? And they also have very promising names to the rosters. So their expectations coming into the NLC is that these guys are going to take the NLC by storm, yet they seem to fumble a lot, especially during the mid-game. They come into a halt and they don't know how to set up around their objectives. They don't seem to want to take the extra fights and the danger that comes around going for these objectives. Now, on the other side for Vanir, I feel like every single time they draft, they know exactly how they want to play the game. Now, the expectations for this team is like, we've never seen them play together.
Nope.
Vanir is a brand new organization as well. We've never seen them play together. How are they going to do? They're actually faring pretty well. The early game, as I mentioned, comes with a pretty clear plan on how they want to play, who do they want to play towards, and usually they come up ahead in the early game. Now, the mid game is the exact opposite from Astralis. It's full of action, but the wrong time.
kind, yeah.
But you know what? You know what? Instead of a standstill, I prefer Vanir. They're like, listen, we're ahead.
Let's do something,
We're gonna do something.
Yeah.
We might overreach. It might not work, but also Marcoon has said that, you know, you miss 100% of the chances you don't take, and also, even if you take the 50-50, later on you will know what works for you.
Absolutely, and you know, Vanir, this is some of these guys said, look, you've been sleeping on us, and this is a chance now at 3-2 to solidify a gap between them and a lot of those teams who were stuck at 2 and 3 at the beginning of the day. They win this, and they start moving up to be within a game of the likes of JDXL, Bifrost. That's some heady heights to be in.
Now, I'm a little bit surprised by, if I can go picks-wise, by the pick of Vex and Camille. They legitimately just want to reach to the back line. But I find the backline of Vanir so hard to reach because you've got a Hecarim, you've got a Gwen that can be immune, and you've got a Thresh. So the second that the Camille together with the Vex dive the backline, I find them to be more of a pickle than they would cause. And we need to see how they're going to choose to take this back and forth in the fights. And I think it's going to be a lot in the hands of Cress and Carlson to find those backline accesses, like Carlson has been doing for a long time now.
Absolutely, and you know, to play devil's advocate, one of those things that Astralis have lacked is kind of proactivity in those mid-late games. They've got all the go buttons they could want for here.
True.
You know, they've got a lot of ways to actually make things happen. One of those things we often ask for organizations, for teams who are struggling in those situations, just like, look, make it simple, give yourselves an easy in, give yourselves an easy visual follow-up for the rest of your team as well. Carlson goes in, throws down a Hextech ultimatum, wonderful. Everyone else knows to follow up.
Yeah, so here's my counter-argument to that. I feel like a Hecarim button is much easier to follow due to the addition of a layer of CC that comes with his ultimate, whilst Carlson is going to have to find the perfect flank and the perfect target to lock into his ultimate. So even though I am 100% confident in the ability of Carlson finding flanks, because this is what he's been doing, even with champions like Renekton that doesn't have the reach that Camille does, it's going to have to be off of the back of the 16, 17-year-old, I don't remember what Gulbok said, rookie who came into Astralis, the only name that's not known in the scene, it's on his backs to find the carries from the side of Vanir. So I think we need to put our eyes onto Carlson the second these fights start and the Camille is there.
All right, well, I had a couple stats actually prepped for Carlson, just in case we were talking about him. So
let's
a couple
go.
ones to keep an eye on. So two things, two interesting stats that are quite interesting. So Carlson, generally speaking, up in his lane, does a good job getting CS, getting gold, getting XP. He then converts it pretty well into being, I think he's been the second highest kill participation top laner, at least prior to today.
I can believe that, since he always finds himself in the back line of the enemy team.
Absolutely, of all top lanes, I think he was behind Babista, who had one of those games where he just like really skewed his stats.
Yeah.
Only thing is, though, he's also the lowest damage percentage top laner in the entire league as it stands.
That's very interesting,
16% damage
considering
percentage.
he plays a lot of Renekton and he does find himself in the middle of fights. Interesting stat.
So here was my thinking. I wonder where you're at with this one.
Okay.
As we've got a little bit of time with not lots happening.
It's going to be pretty much a handshake for
So,
now.
like, if you remember that Renekton game on the Monday where he was kind of looking for these fights, he was just there basically going in just to engage in ICC. He was being polymorphed a lot. He wasn't actually being there as a damage threat. He was kind of throwing his face in to start fights, be involved, but wasn't necessarily there as a damage threat, more as a sort of like, someone's got to start these fights, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether that just ended up hurting, particularly with some of that lack of proactivity. If you're not making fights easy for yourself, then maybe it's hard to be putting the damage out, but that's my initial take anyway.
Yeah, also it's pretty old, Astralis and proactivity.
Ooh,
I
bit of
mean,
that.
it's
It's
not
early game.
It's not that easy to be proactive with the Lulu down bot, but we had a little bit of time to discuss, you know, and we see the Jinx, we see the Aphelios, and I generally say, I do prefer, if you're going to go with hypercarry in the bot lane, something that's not very aggressive like the Draven that we've seen, to go towards that Lulu. I prefer when the lane has the Lulu rather than when it has a Thresh. Because even though Thresh adds the extra layer of safety, of course, with the Lantern, and has that potential for an engage with the hook, Lulu has the poke, Lulu has the protect, but she also has the attack, which is so important when you have such a pokey champion, such as the Jinx or the Aphelios.
Oh, level 6 is hit, and never mind that early game inactivity. Sahira, though, with that last moment scatter that week, manages to get enough distance between him and Tax to stay alive.
So, Vanir are gonna stay on 100% first blood train, and maybe they get another one.
Not done. All right, well, maybe you don't have the Lulu, but you do have some ways to maybe start like Quicksith, blow in the flash there to try and make things happen. Chrisberg and Wendell now down those escape summoners.
So, Noodle has 100% First Blood participation.
That's nuts, isn't it?
And he tried to bring it out again towards the bot lane of Astralis. Now, Chrisberg in the previous season has said, I am so used to getting dived over and over again that I have mastered the defenses. And so far, both Wendell and him have blown a flash, which makes it much easier for Noodle to sneak into the backline since he still has his ghost available. Sahira, first one in the river as well, as Cress still has to take the way back from the lane, which means bot lane Scuttle Crab will go to the side of Vanir.
And it also means that Taxa had to give it up. He wanted to take that one. He wanted the whole of it, and that's actually, honestly, a fairly notable advantage.
Again.
Yeah, just think about it around and back again, but just going to recall there, was maybe wondering whether Taxa might have an investigate after that, and instead does get the reset. Lulu has a quick wander into the river to see whether there's any wards she can get rid of, and indeed he's on the way pinging a control ward in that pixel brush, so that's the play there from the supports. And as it stands, a couple moments of action, but no deaths. But I am looking around, I'm seeing few potential juicy targets for return ganks over the next few moments.
Absolutely. We're looking at bot lane for Astralis. Both Lulu and Aphelios are extremely squishy. We have both of their flashes down. And on the other side for Vanir, Sahira has been the recipient of a lot of violence and ganks in the recurring games, and now he has also lost his flash. But really good read from Quickset right there. Plays around Sahira at least until his wave either crashes towards his tower or he pushes his. I'm assuming that Sahira might want to keep the wave there. No, he's going to crash it onto the tower. There's also another huge wave being built up from Carlson towards the top side of the map.
Yeah, worth mentioning, of course, it's not unsurprising in the matchup, but there is no flashes on those top laners, both going for the Ignite, so that could get a bit dicey at some point, but just worth keeping our eyes on. And once again, Tax from Noodle just sort of investigating the river at the same time with a little bit of attention from their supports.
Difference is, Vanir have brought all 5 members towards the top side of the map, which means that they really want to go and contest for that Rift Herald, whilst Crispex's Aphelios has stayed down the bot lane. So again, this is a pretty much Astralis, very Astralis-esque decision to keep Crispec more on the lower down and have him farm and have him be a menace in the late game. And then on the other side, Vanir are moving around the map as a 5-man unit. Again, we have seen that a very clear plan and how they want to execute it, and they're working together as a team. This is not a surprise, but on this time, Kevin needs to be extremely careful, which he is. He's very respectful. He knows he cannot step up to this tower because Astralis knows that Vanir's members are towards the top side of the map. So Kevo will be pretty much alone for the time being, at least until Quickset comes there. But until he does, 3 tire platings have gone to the sort of Crispberg.
Enough of that. Another attempt here on Sahira's burn. The scout of the week, still no flash. Speaking of return gangs, flash, wind becomes lightning, and lightning does strike twice. Second time secures the kill for Vex. Noodle here, though, is going to try and turn this one around, make it 1-for-1. Flash and Crest stops the initial charge back, but the onslaught of shadows finished it up, and Noodle finally is no longer 100% first blood rate.
Yeah, no, because Crest took it straight out of his hand. We talked about how Sahira was lacking a flash as an immobile carry, so he instantly got punished the second Crest had his ultimate backup and available. That is really good stuff from Astralis, giving us some aggression, at least in the early game, but it is also replied by Noodle's skill onto that Hecarim. Now, the Hecarim is going to be extremely scary, especially when he starts banking a lot of these kills, because that Aphelios and that Vex, also the Camille, are pretty squishy. And in general, the Astralis team is pretty squishy if you compare it to sort of Vanir, because you've got the Hecarim, you've got the immunity onto the Gwen, and you've got the Thresh there, who is sort of a pseudo tank. So Vanir Astralis need to be a little bit careful, especially with giving kills over to a Hecarim.
They do indeed, and while this Hecarim doesn't have that dive buddy I'm normally so fond of seeing with a Hecarim, there's no Lulu, there's no Orianna to back it up. You do have things like that Syndra, you do have things like that Thresh, and you do have a lot of good targets for the Hecarim, so that's a good start for Noodle to at least make that 1-for-1, as we said, and got to see whether Noodle can continue being that proactive force for Vanir that has been so important to getting them rolling in those early games, and maybe part of the charge in the mid game that sometimes leads them to slightly difficult situations they have to fight their way out of.
Yeah, so far, dead even.
Yes.
Next objective on the map spawns in 4 minutes and 25 seconds, which is going to be the next dragon. So for quite a while, there's going to be almost no action unless they want to resort to playing towards these top laners who both have Ignite and no way of escaping. Well, Camille is much easier than the Gwen, but they're still playing with no flash. A lot of the mobility is being cut in half. Other than that, all flashes are back up and available that were taken previously. Astralis bot lane, flash up and available. Sahira has his as well. I think it is going to be a handshake at least until we have the next dragon up and available.
Yeah, might be that. Depends when this Rift Herald times out as well for Noodle, because that could be another point of order. He is looking like he's passing towards that bot lane, so maybe wants to get Kevo a little bit more CS, because as it stands, the Aphelios Lulu coming out on top in that potential skill matchup is right now. Bit of a CS lead, bit of an early edge right now. He's going to have Wendell around a second, but that is a Hecarim who is just off vision and with a Lantern could just dive over the lot of them.
Okay, there is flashes on the side of Astralis bot lane, and there's also wild growth from the Lulu. There's a bunch of things that can protect. Crest, on the other hand, in the mid lane, is lacking a flash. And once Vex has burned the Fear, which is her passive, it is so easy to dive and kill her because she's extremely squishy. So I wouldn't be surprised if Noodle was looking to capitalize somewhere in the mid lane, also bank some gold onto Sahira's pocket, because this Syndra could be extremely powerful in the mid game, especially when they're fighting around the dragon, and the spheres can take a bunch of space.
Oh dear,
Chrisberg
backed up. Oh, that's not a bad ult from the using the Severum. Got chakras, but just falls down. That's an unfortunate overstep, and now Wendell's about to surely fall as well. He's going to be overcharged, not quite enough damage. The super mega death rocket just goes wide. Noodle 2-0, got that Herald in infantry, and I suspect there might be a bot lane drop for it.
I don't know if that Herald is going to reach what they want to, because Taxa is also in the bot lane. I don't know if they're going to let it hit the tower. It's not going to be the case. I think that Crest Roam is really beautiful right here, because it stops Kevo from stepping anywhere near forward, and it will stop the Heralds from charging the tower. So all in all, that was a great roam for Crest to make sure that the value of that Rift Herald is 0.
You could see they almost had all their ducks in a row and then just can't quite make it land at the end there. Vanir going to be kicking themselves for that one. That should have been some easy plates there and couldn't quite make it happen.
But, important thing, Summoner's burned.
Yes.
Wendell's flash is down. That Lulu is going to be extremely vulnerable in almost 2 minutes' time, that the next dragon is going to come up, and Astralis might want to fight. Very important. What items do we have on the board? We already have Chrisberg's Gale Force. We also have Mythics, top, and jungle for the side of Astralis, so if they do want to fight, they are relatively strong at this point in the game. On the other side, for Vanir, we do not yet have an item for Kevo, who's fallen behind in CS.
And I think that's often been a common thing for Chrisberg. He is joint highest CS per minute in the league right now, 9.4. He's got the highest DPM of any AD carry, 715.
Also
does
remember,
a lot of work.
That occurrence comes from Kevo having to path top side of the map as a 5-man unit to secure the Herald that made 0 value for Vanir.
Because that was the opportunity cost, and it cost them 2-3 plates on this bot lane as a result. Tax is back down bot to shield this one out with a minute till the dragon. Looks like Astralis thinking about preparing for this one. Honestly, both teams thinking about setting up for a bit of a rumble around this one. I think we could be due a little bit of a brawl trouble.
So, 45 seconds. Is Astralis going to be willing to fight? The answer right there is most likely going to be
yes. They just burned a lot there to get onto Sahiro, and I think with that Shadow Surge being down, might actually cost them a little bit here.
So my thought process is that Kevo has not backed yet, and he hasn't secured his mythic item, doesn't have the gold yet. So I would assume that Vanir definitely do not want to fight this. Sahira also just backed, doesn't have his mythic available to him, whilst Vex does. So even though Crest did use his ultimate, I think they're at a pretty safe spot unless Chrisberg dies again.
He's got a flash and he's got a Gale Force. It gets him far enough away. That is the Wild Growth onto Xin Zhao. That combo is just disgusting. Noodle uses the onslaught of Shadow. Nile has teleported down. Taxus so very low. Quickset just keeps hitting everything. Super Mega Death Rocket just goes wide. And Kevo will be denied the kill, but will get a hold of the dragon. Mythic item be damned.
I mean, Astralis overstep, they overreach, they try to go for a kill. Chrisberg gets caught once again this time, and now it costs them the dragon that was most likely going to be Astralis' dragon, because the items were just not ready for Vanir to fight. So in a 4 versus 4 right there. Oh, Chrisberg.
Ooh, it's a lot of damage, not quite enough. Does he have a Binding Eclipse available? He's got Flash. He wants to think for it. Decides against it. All right, well, nice attempt there, but 100 damage or so shy. Carlson, though, been given free rein towards this top lane. Got the Divine Sundra. That will be the tower going down. It'll be first tower over to Astralis, so that's at least a positive.
I wonder how much difference the gold is between the top laners, because I'm pretty sure, yeah, Carlson has banked in on a bunch of tower platings as well, so that is a 700 gold lead that he's gotten for himself right there. And Nile is running towards the top side of the map, so is Noodle, doesn't have his ultimate up and available, so I don't think they're going to look for anything on Carlson, which is where the swaps will start happening right now. You put your Aphelios towards the mid lane, and also the second Rift Herald has spawned. Carlson is faking his back.
There we go. He's got that slow with the tactical sweep. Hasn't used the hook shot quite yet. Taxis around, but look at your mini-map. That is Quixith and Noodle around and about. And while Nile is behind Carlson by about 1,000 gold, Noodle is ahead of Taxa by about the same amount in turn. And with a Herald spawn...
Look on the map, though.
Yeah.
Kevo has pushed an entire wave down bot lane, and Crispec has gone top, then went back bot, then now it's going top again. Big ult.
That's a Shadow Surge. Will Cress follow up? There it is! Into that passive doom and gloom causes the fear. The onslaught of shadows turns it around. Sahira has popped the ultimate, unleashing the power, but Carlson has picked up 2 kills already. So that's a statement against that 60% damage percentage right now. Takes a big stun. Taxa taken down about 20% HP. Crispberg somehow behind enemy lines.
Kevo
it is a
no
3v4. Kevo does have no mana. Sahira, that does have a blue buff and could maybe cause a bit more damage. This Herald is the aim right now for Astralis. They've got to extricate themselves from the red side jungle.
Okay, let's look if we have any teleports. Nila does not have his teleport up and available. Crest does, and he spawns in 8 seconds. It is the unleashed version of the teleport, which means they can teleport wherever the F they want. So Vanir are going to back out of this Rift Herald. And suddenly it all went too bad. And I feel like Nila right there just did his support a little bit dirty since he was already tagged by Cress's ultimate.
Problem with your statement there, I think he's actually got teleport on D, not F, so it's not whether the F he wants, whether the D he wants, but come on.
Okay.
I'm sorry, like, I'd apologise, but I'm quite pleased with that, so, you know.
Yeah. Keck W.
Keck's W, but that was Riddle the last game, so there we go. Anyway, right, so we've got ourselves... Wow, I'm sorry.
You're on a roll, man.
I know, like, I'm sorry. I'm never casting with trouble again. They're kicking me off the broadcast. That was the last straw. 2 days and I'm gone. Still, that Herald has actually been left alone. No one wants to fight for it anymore. 2 minutes until the next dragon, and maybe with Vanir thinking Ocean Soul Point, that might actually be more to their tastes.
And also, let's see, after all these fights, who has banked in the goal? Because this is going to be the most important, right? We talked about Carlson. We said how it's going to rely on his back to find the backline access to get onto the carries, but let's see one more time this fight. The ultimate from the Vex lands, and the patience from Cress until Nile takes the lantern. So it wasn't Nile doing Quixith dirty, it was actually Quixith being like, oh yeah, bring it my way, mate. It's fine. We can do this. Now, Vanir, of course, going back and forth, but they have Crispec right behind them, so they couldn't necessarily push. There's another fight, and Quixith is dead.
Oh, he's just dead to rights. Cress landed another Shadow Surge, I believe, and look at Noodle. He has to back on out of here, but Crispberg goes down in trade. Sahira gets that one. Shadow Surge goes wide. That's an onslaught. The Shadows over the wall. Gwen might go immune, but Lulu is dead to rights. Over the wall goes Taxa. And actually, that is 2 dead for Astralis, and... well, I think they've got themselves the likes of a Baron. They're actually going to try and clear out this Rift Herald before it despawns. They might just about make it, but it's going to be close.
Honestly, we've been talking about how Crispec is a passive ADC. I think in this particular game, he's been caught out way too many times in the front line. His Noodle is going to...
Dead. Didn't get the eye in time. It got stuck against the wall. He didn't get it. It despawned. And now they're going to mess the setup. We'll get the replay, though.
Thank you for the replay right there. So it's again Cress with the engage in the mid lane, but again, Crispec over there, he steps into the choppers that were there.
That's twice now.
Twice in a row, and instantly gets penalized for it, and the second Crest misses the second part of the ultimate. Noodle gets the OK for a beautiful engage right there, and a bunch of summoners are burnt. We're looking at Tax's flash is down. We're looking at Wendell not having flash, and on the other side, further near, we have Sahira with no flash. And why am I mentioning them? I'm mentioning them because we're about to just see a fight on who's going to secure the dragon. It's going to be so point if it goes inside of Vanir. Vanir, though, have no setup in this river, and Astralis have taken full control.
Well, it might not be the war, but it's certainly a battle that could decide it. The lines are drawn, the trenches are all dug in. Carlson is around the back and maybe looking for the flank. hook just goes wide. Dragon is started. Watch for the onslaught of shadows. Watch for Carlson off vision to find that engage. Dragon down to sub 3,000
Noodle's going
HP.
in.
Noodle's going to start charging. He's into the backline and secures it. That's Soul. That's him out.
Baby. In and out.
Slick as
that
you
was
like.
Clean.
Smooth operator. And Vanir, the mid game that has often been a little bit dicey. Yeah, there's been a couple picks now, but that is actually a really smooth little moment for them.
Okay, that was so smoothly done by Noodle and Quicksand. He's like, I'm going in, you bail me out. He steals it, I think it was 68 spear or something. I don't know if we can get this in a
Gorgeous.
slow-mo, but that was so beautiful. And not only that, Astralis back straight after this and lose their middle tower as well. Having two immobile carries, does Chris back onto the Astralis and crash onto that Vex. You need your mid lane tower to hide behind. This is going to be so problematic for them. Having a Hecarim running through your jungle and coming from the back.
And trouble.
Yes.
The gold is still dead even. There's like 200 gold apart at this point. 300 as I speak about it. Like, we are in such a close space. Not quite at that soul yet are Vanir, but they've got 3 dragons. They're doing super well. That's the big difference maker here. It's that stacking.
Yep, absolutely. And also, if you look at items, I saw that Noodle was almost 2,000 gold
Hugely ahead, yeah.
He's got his Sterax up as well as his Sundera, which means he puts out a lot of damage and he managed to stay alive. And look at that. Crispek has to push that mid lane, but he can't step forward for that wave, which means that Vanir get to control both sides of the river due to that mid lane tower. Noodle could wrap around and get from the behind of that Aphelios, and it's going to get really, really problematic for them. So that mid lane tower going down after that dragon, I think it was a big whoopsie from Astralis.
Cost them some issues, and we've already seen Hecarims run people down in that mid lane over the last few days. I feel it could be happening again. If anybody who watched Div 2 yesterday could see exactly what Hecarims can do in that particular amount of space, namely a lot. We'll leave it at that. And Noodle has been such a key part of Vanir's wins over the last few weeks. He's been so good on the Xin Zhao slight debacle around the top lane the other day. Aside, he's been really proactive, really good at finding the angles, the engages, and starting things for this team, and he's in a prime position to potentially take Vanir to 4-2 in this NLC Spring 22 split.
Back to the game.
Yes.
Astralis pushing in the mid lane for control towards the top side river. This is textbook. You always want to push in the mid lane so you can enter from more angles into that river. Now it's Vanir's time to have to face check to see if the Baron is going down, and Pinkwood is going to solidify the fact that they're not going for that Baron, and it's going to be a pretty much back and forth until in 2 minutes time.
No, that is just nasty. So much damage.
what?
Just managed to audacious charge just before those charms was out.
Something didn't go right there. Something did not go right, because that flay was very sussy. That flay from Quickseth was very sussy.
What's got you thinking they're the imposter?
I think it was a scatter the weak.
They shoved him too far.
To nullify.
Oh no.
Yeah. That's why I was saying that. Oh,
Let's
it's a
see
little
here.
sussy.
That's unfortunate. Yeah, because that is the combo. That is the Jinx Thresh combo.
Yeah.
You get the hook, you put the chompers down, you flame straight back into him, and you're CC'd for absolutely ever. And Jinx gets the press R, and you're
And
done.
that could have been Baron as well.
It
right
really
there.
could have been.
So, lucky for Taxa right there. He doesn't get locked down and killed, but
Oops.
we get closer to Soul for the side of Vanir. This is going to be Ocean Soul, and with how drugged these fights have been in general, Ocean Soul is going to be so useful for Vanir since they're playing the back and forth game every single time. You go in, you get back out, you go in, get back out. Now having this health regeneration from the Ocean Soul is going to be huge if you want to re-engage in a fight or even a 4v5 with full HP bars. So, 1 minute remaining. There's a bunch of control wards in the river for Vanir, but nothing behind that Dragon Pit, which means that Astralis right now, they've already done their backs. They've already gone and establish their vision and their control inside the river, which means that yet again, Vanir are left behind, having to face check.
All right, couple key item pickups as well. I want to point out to the Bloodthirster being complete for Crispberg. That might help keep him alive. That Gale Force Bloodthirster combo is something I saw popularized by Utapon of all people out from the LJL. He did that a lot during the Worlds. They got a lot of other people following. Might keep him alive here. It's been so difficult thus far. That's Kevo trying again. Taxa just about to get away from that Glacial, and now again it's that attempt now from Vanir to try and find a way over this mid lane, try and find a way into the river is fighting again. That stunt goes through! Tax is gone. Never mind setting up for engages. It's just over. Crisberg lands an Infernum onto Sahira alone. That doesn't do enough with that Moonlight Vigil. And Jungler dead. I think this is just Soul.
All eyes on Cress and Carlson right now because they're going to be the 2-1s engaging. Sahira?
Oh, got the stopwatch. Cress is going to be forced not to get the reset. The Mistral bolts aren't hitting hard enough. Dragon starts again. Noodle is going to be onto this one. They have got a control ward.
They have no smite.
But they've got no smite. They land another hook. Quickset has just been hitting all of Carlson into the backline. He goes gold. They've got Sahira. Maybe they could do this in the 4 versus 5. Crisberg is now going to be sent fleeing away. It's a double for Cress, though, who has managed to make some stuff work. Flashes the hook. Continuing to trade, but Noodle now re-engages. And Cress at least gets that one final personal space. But Astralis, it was a valiant effort. It was not enough. But Vanir secures Soul, and Astralis are left wanting.
4-0-4 for Noodle. 3-0-5 for Keva, who was untouched the entire time. That Jinx got excited upon excited upon excited until he wiped Astralis away from the map. And now they have enough members surviving. Their ADC and their jungler is all they need to go for that Baron. Now be very careful. Taxa is there and he could potentially go for a cheeky check onto that Baron. There's double teleports that are being channeled. Carlton is back. No ultimate. It's a 3v4 and Vanir are gonna pull the trigger off of the Baron. They're gonna be like, we cannot throw right now. We've played pretty well. And Astralis were started.
Here we go, they're starting again. It's on Vision though, and Vanir haven't back quite yet. This is gonna happen again. We've just had one enormous fight, ginormous, decisive fight around the Soul. This should have been Vanir taking control of the game, and Astralis saying we can't allow this to settle, can't allow it to set. They're gonna start up the Baron. Noodle's got the ult up. Nile gonna be pulled into the Hex Tech ultimate, but he's healing so much, he's polymorphed, but he's thrown down the Thunderdome. The Hallowed Mist isn't enough. Here comes the Super Mega Death Rocket, but that will be the top laner down. Now Vanir have to pull away. That is a huge Shadow Surge. Goes Golden does Cress alongside that Wild Growth. Tax into the backline, into the Infernum Moonlight Vigil. Taxa though, getting a turnaround. Noodle's counter engage Sabine. So huge as it comes. It's in the back lane. And they just about get away, but the 2 members dead, and Astralis can move back to the Baron.
Kevin could not get a reset to save his life. One would be all he would need, but Astralis are relatively safe right here. They still got 5 members, and Carlson is holding the gates, not allowing Vanir to get back in. Kevin wanted to take the plant to be full HP, and Vanir might still want to try this.
That is another hook shot into those choppers. Might buy a bit of time, but Sahira's been shut down. That's Carlson that picked up. The Mistral Bolt goes wide, and I think this has to be Baron to Astralis, and the Ocean Soul, the one that seems so beautiful for Vanir, is looking more and more like it might have cost them so much more. It's a bounty as well.
Okay, Astralis back on the driving seat. 2,000 gold in the lead. Baron in their hands, and that Camille is coming in clutch. The rookie that was put on the carry hits his mark over and over and over again. Carlson, 4-1-2 is putting in the work for Astralis. He's making that sloppy mid-game work, because I think this time there hasn't been no sloppiness at all. It's been Astralis replying straight up to Vanir's aggression in the mid-game, and now heading towards that late game. The fights are gonna get much more bloody and much more decisive. They could mean end of game.
Vanir, in this situation, you've got the Soul, you've got the permanent buff. If you can hold on to this Baron push, if you don't lose too much, if you don't let the gold lead get to an unsurmountable point, you've still got options.
Very importantly, there is nothing that Vanir needs to fight right now.
No.
So we need to take into account that there's 2 stopwatches, one on Nila, one on Noodle. It's gonna keep them alive for much longer. Very crucially, there's none on Sahira. He went for the Shadow Flame instead of the Hourglass. Doesn't have enough money to buy it yet. Once he does, we saw how easily he was able to dodge Cress's ult, and it's going to be really important for him to do that. So far, he only has to rely on his flash. Astralis with full Baron force, 2 cannon minions fully burned up on the bot side. They're beginning the siege.
Keep your eyes as well. It's 2 minutes until the Elder Dragon. What items can they get done? Jinx has got an Infinity Edge. That is a big deal. Still waiting on that third item to be for Crispberg, who's got some other points. As the fear from the Doom and Gloom passive of Vex continues to be incredibly obnoxious this game.
This is a Kevo versus Crispberg moment. Both ADCs scale incredibly well into the late game. They both have equal items. Who is able to stay alive? Who is able to output the most damage for their teams?
The long-range fears, and Noodle thinks this is an option.
Noodle?
There's a Shirelias. They're just chasing them back. Nexus, Inhibitor Towers stand. I know, I was there as well. Like, is this it? Is this the moment?
Okay, I think they perfectly nullified that Baron.
They do.
No Inhibitor Towers went down, no Inhibitors went down, and Vanir can actually walk back into their jungle, which is very important, because you mentioned very rightfully, in 1 minute, Elder Dragon's coming back. You need to take control of the bot side jungle of Noodles, and then you need to put a lot more vision behind that Baron pit, that Dragon's pit, sorry. You need to know where the Astralis members are hiding behind. Very crucially, Sahira has the Hourglass. It's going to be huge. We have 4 stopwatches, including the Hourglass, on Sahira for the side of Vanir. The only one with that immunity is going to be Cress for the side of Astralis.
30 seconds until the Elder Dragon, and that Baron buff only earned Astralis a net total of a 2,000 gold lead. I don't think that's enough by itself. This Elder Dragon is anyone's game. But with those stopwatches, with that Ocean Soul, I feel Vanir, if they can get a straight-up fight and don't have to walk too blind into the river, they should have the advantage. Should have the advantage.
They know where Nilla is, and he's wrapping around from the side. Astralis do not have much vision themselves, because the mid lane wave is being pushed over and over again by Vanir, which means they can enter from whichever side they wish for. Vanir, again, are going to push in the wave, which will give them entrance through that river.
Everybody but Kevo and Crispberg has Flash available, but has taken the Summoner. Taxa goes in, and the Thunderdomes overlap. Crescent Guard versatile miss, but it's done.
He used the ultimate.
It's done. That's a hook onto Carlson, but he's not going to be chased up. Whimsy did come through to shield there. Alongside that, help picks.
All eyes on the ghost. When is Noodle gonna pop the ghost?
Keep your eyes on it. That's the far side Oracle. Look at Carlson, he's in the pit. Look at the Elder Dragon down to half HP. It's resetting slightly. Crispberg, not got flash quite yet. There it is, the engage is huge! But Taxa taking so low, he's out! Sierra's unleashed the power! Now at the back end of his quickness, still alive, Crest, got golden, but the stopwatches for Vanir, they're just everywhere! Crispberg gets Noodle, and the damage back is decent, but Crispberg, with all of those chakrams, maybe he can trade, has to flash out Nova! Not enough damage to finish him off. Kevo taken so low, and somehow, some way, jungler for jungler trade, and no one gets the Elder.
Very crucially, Ocean Soul is keeping Vanir healthier. The regeneration is coming through. Sahira had time to back and TP back into the fray. The HP bars are so low for Astralis. They can't walk in. Crispberg goes on 5% HP, and he's the one that has to carry, but Nilla has been gone on the side.
He's in a 1v4. Sahira! The scan of the week to take out the Aphelios, and this might be it! They've got Wendell down to nothing in terms of HP. Flash, hook goes wide. Another scan of the week just goes out of it. And who says your champion pool is too small when you can land a stun like that?
Ooh, Sahira might have saved Vanir the game right here. What a scat of the week to snipe Crispberg out of the map. And as you can see, Noodle is back up and is running towards the Elder Dragon. It hasn't ended yet though, because Taxa is around.
He's a quicksand, he's been spotted out. That means he's going to try and find his way out of here. Can he get a poke across the wall? He might be in trouble here. Wendell's down in support for support. Crest taken so low as well. He gets down the doom and gloom. Sahira taken low, but gets the ult off again. It's back off cooldown. Taxa over the back of the wall. It now has to be a steal from Astralis. And how does it come down to late game fights around Elders and Barons for Astralis? How is it always here, Trouble?
It's always the setup, baby. They don't have the vision and they don't know how to set up around them. And Vanir are so decisive. We mentioned it over and over again at playing these teamfights to perfection. And right now, since you have the Elder, no one is going to step anywhere near you to contest the Baron. So this is going to be Ocean Soul Baron, and Elder Dragon, all 3 buffs for the side of Vanir. Can they end the game like this?
This game has been neck and neck for so long.
Kevo has not died!
I don't know how he's done it. Baron buff comes through. It was Ocean Soul, traded back by Astralis getting the Baron. It has been tower for tower trades. It has been so close, but now with the Ocean Soul, now with the Elder Dragon, now with the Baron buff, Vanir are inches away from proving those pre-split narratives null and void. A team that people had such limited expectations for in some ways. Look at this game. Look at this team. The teams, it's not a question about are they middle of the pack. It's a question of whether they can challenge those hallowed heights of JDXL, of Bifrost, of the teams they're a game behind from.
They're 1 step away from proving why they are better than Astralis that we've been putting in our top 3. Noodle leading the charts again. He's threatening with his ultimate. He's creating space for his team. He's been such a pivotal factor in why Vanir in the space they are right now. First inhibitor going down. They don't have another wave, which means they're going to have to push through the mid lane. This is very dangerous.
Astralis are backs against the line. They are staring down the barrel of a 0 and 4. Noodle is resurrecting. He's got the GA. Wendell taken so low. Where is the Elder Burn? That rocket goes wide. The Nexus towers are down. And Vanir, I think they've just about done it. Astralis, you're 0 and 4. Vanir, welcome to 4 and 2. I am so sorry we doubted you. Whew.
Oh, baby. Oh, that was a good game to end the day with. Holy sh...
Well done. No money in the swear jar quite yet. What a game. That game was so close. We hyped it up as a game of the day, game of the week. It delivered.
Kevo did not die. Yeah. This entire series, he did not die. There were Camille's, there were Vexes driving in, they were flashing by, they were flying the backline. Kevo, holy, you're such a beast. Congratulations to the entire Vanir lineup because they played their hearts out, honestly. I don't have a single player where I'm like, oh, this guy played better than anyone else. I think them as a collective whole, they played amazing. And honestly, Astralis showed up in the mid-game, but Vanir were just better.
It's a devastating loss for Astralis, 0 and 4, but it is a glorious win for Vanir, who moved to 4 and 2. Are you not entertained?
Oh, I'm very
certainly
entertained.
am. Stick around, you can be entertained even more, because we'll cut to a break and we'll have a post-show just afterwards.